Hello everyone, Joseph Dunphy here, and this is your weekly Grass10 grazing management update on the dairy edge. The grass growth predictions for the coming 7 days are expected to be in the region of 22 to 26 kilos of dry matter per hectare. However, I must stress that these growth predictions are expected for people who have their nitrogen and slurry applications up to date. Predicted rainfall amounts are expected to be moderate, with between 5 to 10 millimetres of rain expected for the east and the south, and in around 15 to 20 millimetres of rain for the north and the west. Soil temperatures are expected to be around 8 degrees Celsius for the coming week. Your Grass10 tips for this week? Good grazing conditions continue to be the flavour of the day, with super utilisation being seen on farms all throughout the country. However, a significant proportion of farms are currently below the average farm cover target. Therefore, walking the farm every week to assess grass supply is absolutely critical. And many farms will have to match growth and demand over the coming weeks as we enter or approach the second rotation. It's key also to look at regrowth on the first grazed paddocks. To begin the second rotation on the 7th of April, you're going to need 4 to 5 paddocks with a cover of greater than 800 kilos of dry matter per hectare on them at the minute. If the cover is below this threshold, you will need to extend the rotation start date further into April. For most farms, the average farm cover should be at least 650 to 700 kilos of dry matter per hectare at the start of the second rotation. And also, it's very important from the rumen and the animal point of view to mix first and second round grass if possible. When we dig a little bit deeper into the dairy farm cover data from this week from Pasture Base Ireland, about 35% of farms now have an average farm cover between 350 and 600. The mean average farm cover for this group is now 521 and the cover per livestock unit is 212. The grass allocation target for this category of farmers should be around 6 to 7 kilos, which is grass by day and heavily supplemented. For farmers in category 2 with an average farm cover between 600 and 800, which is about 50% of the farms on Pasture Base Ireland this week, the mean average farm cover for this group is 689 and the cover per livestock unit is 263. The grass allocation target for this group is somewhere in around 8 to 10 kilos of grass, so that's grass by day and again a couple of hours after evening milking, but again considerable supplementation going in this diet too. For farmers in category 3 with greater than 800 kilos of dry matter per hectare on the farm, the mean average farm cover for this group of 15% of farms was sitting at 880 and the cover per livestock unit was a healthy 335. Target grass allocation here is full-time at grass. All farms need to have 60 units of N per acre or 75 kilos per hectare spread by now. For farms that are only able to allow low allocations of grass and have poor quality silage available in the yard, Teagasc nutritionist Aisling Claffey has a couple of recommendations. She recommends that soya hulls and beet pulp offer the highest energy to displace silage, also to avoid overfeeding in the parlour, as you have to watch higher starch and watch the acid load, particularly when moving on to low covers coming into the second round. And she also suggests that we should aim for 10 to 12 kilos of forage in the diet at all times. So, for this example, if silage is tight on your farm, you're going to need a high grass allowance of in around 12 kilos of dry matter per hectare. And in this example, you would need to include around 3 kilos of soya hulls or beet pulp type scenario, along with 4 kilos of meal in the parlour. Where low quality silage is all that's remaining, so 68 DMD pit silage for an example, and you also are only able to offer low grass availability, a suggested diet there should be 7 kilos of grass, 3 kilos of that 68 DMD silage, 5 kilos of a 16% nut, and 4 kilos of soya hulls in a midday feed. If we have excellent quality silage, 74 DMD, but are still only able to offer low grass availability, a suggested diet there would be 7 kilos of grass, 3.5 kilos of that 74 DMD silage, 5 kilos of a 16% dairy nut, and 3.5 kilos of soya hulls. As you order chemical fertiliser for grazing and silage in the coming weeks, do not forget about sulphur. For grazing fields, apply 20 kilos of sulphur per hectare per year or 16 units per acre per year by July 1st. Select products such as 18612 plus sulphur or protected urea plus sulphur to apply now between March and July. For silage paddocks, apply in around 15 kilos of sulphur per hectare per cut, so 12 units per acre per cut. So for example, if the paddock is receiving cattle slurry at 3,000 gallons per acre, apply protected urea plus sulphur, so a 38% nitrogen plus 7% sulphur type product to balance crop N and sulphur requirements. This week's featured farmer in the Grass10 newsletter is Eoin Corrigan from Trim, County Meath. Eoin's current average farm cover is 646, growth is 14, demand is 26, and he has 70% of the first rotation grazed. Looking at his second rotation paddocks, he has between 8 and 900 kilos back on the first 5 paddocks, and he has pushed out his second rotation start date to the 10th of April. Cows are grazing by day only at the minute. They're getting 7 kilos of grass, 6 kilos of meal, and 6 kilos of silage. The current cow performance is 25 litres at 4.62 fat and 3.45 protein. Eoin is tidying up his first cut silage fertiliser at the minute. The silage ground got 3,000 gallons per acre of slurry in February, and recently he's after applying 2.2 bags per acre of 38 plus 7 protected urea plus sulphur product. Lastly, on this week's podcast, keep an eye out for this week's episode of Grass10 TV. This week's episode of Grass10 TV features Joe Morrissey from Rosellan Farm in County Cork. And in this episode of Grass10 TV, Joe discusses how he achieves top growth rates and very good reproductive performance from his heifers by using quality grass. If you would like to hear more from the Grass10 team, subscribe to the weekly Grass10 newsletter, which is available on the Grass10 page on the Teagasc public website, and the link to the newsletter is also available in the description of this podcast. We'd also like to thank the sponsor of the Grass10 campaign, AIB, Grass10 Agro, Department of Agriculture, FBD, and the Farmers Journal. This has been your Grass10 update, and I'll talk to you all next week.